Racism in American Housing by Kate, Julia, and Jackie. Take a moment to ask yourself, what is redlining? Now, ask yourself if there is a single answer to this question, or are there multiple? The way you perceive this question and piece together information to find an answer, or answers, revolves around prior knowledge of information and prior experiences. So what is redlining? In the year 1930, the federal government became proud supporters and sponsors of the Home-Owned Loaners Corporation, also known as HOLC. During this time, they agreed to color coordinate every metropolitan area in the country to highlight and pinpoint specific areas like neighborhoods that were best fit for investment and bringing in money. The green area means higher desirability, which is also known as first grade. Blue, higher desirability, second grade, still desirable. Yellow, declining, third grade. And red, hazardous, fourth grade. This allowed people to pick and choose which neighborhoods were desirable and fitting for wise investments. When labeling certain areas as hazardous, it was also known as redlining, and it meant that that area was risky to invest in. Despite the fact that this has since been made illegal in the year 1968, it is still taking place currently. When considering the question, what is redlining, also consider these questions. Where do you see this in your everyday life? Have you ever been negatively affected by an experience related to redlining or been classified as something? Do you see this in districts near you? How so? Why?
The 1968 Fair Housing Act made it illegal to discriminate based on someone's race when they are trying to rent or buy a house, as well as when they apply for a mortgage. It also bans imposing extremely high interest rates and/or fees. In addition to these regulations, in 1977, the Community Reinvestment Act was passed, which states that lenders must track how often they approve or disapprove of loan requests from people with a low socioeconomic background. These records are then looked over, and lenders are given a rating based on how well they are complying with the law, with scores ranging from outstanding all the way to non-compliance with the law. Despite these laws being implemented, redlining is still occurring, just in a different form. Redlining still occurs, just not in the same form as in the past. What we see now is not officials drawing out red lines on maps, but rather effects from this past strategy. According to Tracy Jan from the Washington Post, nationally, nearly 2/3 of neighborhoods deemed as hazardous are inhabited by mostly minority residents, typically Black and Latino. This is more commonly seen in cities with greater socioeconomic inequality as well. On the other hand, 91% of neighborhoods classified as the best to live in during the 1930s are inhabited by those who are middle to upper class economically, and 85% of the inhabitants are white. According to Nikitra Bailey, when speaking to CBS, Black, Latino, and Asian applicants are turned away for loans at a higher rate than whites in many U.S. cities. Though these disparities are clear to see, banks decline purposefully redlining. Rather, they claim that the racial lending patterns seen are due to borrower's credit score.
When looking at the EDT 181 connections, there are 3 specific ones that really caught my eye when I was reading about redlining and how it affects the students. The first one is schools in specific zones may not have the financial support the school needs. Not all schools can support the specific needs a school may need. This can include textbooks, computers, calculators, the right books, plus many more essentials. Even though a public school may be in a certain area, it doesn't mean it is the best option. And that goes into the second bullet point, being aware of the different zones and how they impact the community. That is very important because the different zones can cause a setback in the capacity of the different schools surrounding the main public school. The last one talks about schools not only have different students that make up their schools, but they have to make sure to include everyone, even if that means creating more of a hands-on environment in the classroom, where students who are not getting the extra attention they need because they either can't afford it or the school does not have a program that can help them, they turn to surrounding schools, but because of redlining, may be stuck. Are you thinking about becoming a teacher? Well, what personal awarenesses are needed in order to teach this topic? There are 3 important things, along with a bunch of others, that are important to be aware of. The 3 are the different areas that redlining impacts, how social justice will affect the classroom, and the different communities that different students come from. How redlining impacts the different schools is you have to look at the hazardous areas, and you have to look at the different school systems within the hazardous areas and right outside. For somebody who is living in a hazardous area does not get the same opportunities as somebody who is living outside. And just because of their financial state does not mean that they should be taken away from the opportunity to get a better education. The social justice will affect the classroom for sure when you're looking at how wealth, opportunities, and privileges impact the students who come from the different areas. Many different students may have a different home life and be filled with more opportunities than those who live in a harder part of town. In a short video, it will explain an example of redlining and how it had affected a person's public school that is near them. One of my major takeaways from this video was seeing the different reading skills that the different public schools all intake because of their living conditions around there. It was very important for me to get an understanding of how different schools are affected by redlining.